Hey, I'm Antony. I've had a varied career ranging from science to quality to commercialization, but the common factor I've always found is that I love when I have the creative freedom to solve a problem, and that's how I got into code.
Hi, my name's Abdirisaaq, and I come from a business and finance background, and I'm very excited to be embarking on this new journey of code.
Hi, I'm Karen. I used to be a primary school teacher, but I've recently decided to switch careers into something which will be challenging, be creative, and provide an environment where no 2 days are the same.
Hi, I'm Luis, and I used to work as a retail assistant, but I always wanted to work in an environment that allows me to progress and give more value to the society.
Hi, my name is Marwa. Before the School of Code, I recently graduated with a master's degree in pharmacy, and then I decided to swap prescriptions for programming in an exciting career change.
The School of Code set us a task to create anything that we can solve a problem to. The world is your oyster. After spending the first day with our group getting to know each other, we went away that night, came in the next morning, and we voted on the app ideas that we all had. It became apparent that something that we all cared about was leading a more sustainable life, and with this, eating more sustainably. As the world is becoming more lifestyle and planet conscious, people are looking for more ways to implement lifestyle changes. There has been an increased demand in the UK for seasonal food types and organic produce. Supermarkets sell 75% of organic produce available, with the remaining 25% being sold on veg box schemes and in your local farmers markets. Besides the health benefits of eating seasonal, it is also much tastier as the food is left to naturally ripen, being full of flavour with the nutrients. It is better for the environment and cheaper on the wallet, something that we all care about in these current times. Imports of food has a high carbon footprint, and it's something that a lot of people care deeply about. We decided to make an app that helps to educate people, to tell them what foods are in season right now, along with the recipe inspiration for that particular ingredient. The result? Tastier food that cuts down the time that food takes to get from ground or tree to your plate.
We designed the Nourish app to solve the problem we'd identified with a key user journey, where a user who's about to do their shopping for the week can log into our app, see what ingredients are in season, find some recipes, and then add what's needed for those recipes to their shopping list, which they can then take with them. The user logs in, which is handled through Auth0, and they'll be taken directly to the home page. We can see that currently the home page is in spring, as that's the season we're in, and they're presented with a list of vegetables and fruit which match up to spring. We've also added a feature where you can switch between any season, and that changes the whole style of the app. We thought this would be a really cool exercise in challenging our CSS skills, as well as a nice feature to tie into the educational idea we were going for, where you can find out what's in season at any time of the year. So the user can then scroll down and have a look what's on display. Perhaps they see broccoli, they want some greens in their diet, so they click on that, and it'll take them through to the ingredients page. It's got some information about health facts, as well as an extra little did you know down the bottom there, which again ties into the idea of having some educational content as you go through the app. The user then scrolls down, they're presented with a few recipes. Maybe they like the look of what's here, but if not, they can click the Discover More, and they're taken to our search page, which is then pre-filled with the item they were looking into. Maybe then they change their mind, and then they can use this just like any other search function. They're thinking more about potatoes, and who doesn't like a good gratin? So maybe they select a potato gratin, and it'll take them through to the recipe page. We've got a favorites feature, so you can favorite that one, and if I click on the menu here and go through to the favorites, you can see that the gratin is now there, along with a couple that I prepared earlier. Going back to the recipe, the user can then scroll down and see what is required for the recipe, and they can add these ingredients to their shopping list. So they need some butter, they need some garlic, they got plenty of goat's cheese lying around, but they need some milk. So now if they go through to their shopping list, you can see that those items have been added in. And this has the normal shopping list functionality you might need if you're heading out. So you can chuck bread in there and anything like that. Now, just going back through the favorites, if I go back to the recipe, we've also added some functionality where the user can tick off the steps as they move through the recipe. As when you've got your phone with you in the kitchen, this can be pretty nifty just for tracking where you're up to. So that's the main user journey that we were going for, but we also added in extra content around the idea of educating about the benefits of eating seasonally. So if I go through our About page, this covers off some of the things Karen was talking about earlier regarding carbon footprint and the benefits of more nutrients and better quality vegetables when you eat in season. We've also got the seasonality guide, which goes month by month and breaks down what is in peak season at that time. So these are the key features of our app, but we've also got some features for an unauthorized user. So if I was to log out, we can immediately see on the menu here that there's no longer a favorites and a shopping list, as those are only for authorized users who are saved in our database. But if I go back to home, once again, you can see all the information about ingredients are on display, and you can still click through on these, and all this information is displayed as well as the recipes.
During the early development process, we created multiple user personas to represent the different types of people who might use our product, and from there we created user stories. For example, meet Jaya, a young professional working in Notting Hill. She likes to cook using fresh ingredients and has been feeling uninspired recently due to the lack of options. Occasionally, she hosts dinner parties for friends and will make an effort to pick ingredients that are fresher. She's recently become more health conscious and would like to eat more organic food if possible, and she's becoming increasingly aware of the harmful effects of the pesticides that are used on out-of-season produce imported from countries with less stringent regulations. She would now like to focus on making more dishes using seasonal produce, but is having trouble finding these recipes at her fingertips. Based on this user persona, we refined our ideas by using the Disney ideation model. We jotted down our ideas on our Miro board and decided on the core features we would like to include in our MVP. Following this process, we sent out surveys to the wider School of Code community to receive feedback on what features they would use in the seasonal food app. The results highlighted that the most popular feature was the ability to save recipes to your favorites. We then moved on to the design process. To quickly learn the scale of our product, we created low and high fidelity prototypes using Figma. We created a style guide to promote consistency and provide a much more structured way to build our components, therefore reducing development time. We adopted an iterative approach. Based on feedback, as well as usability issues we encountered, we came back to these designs frequently to make appropriate adjustments as the project developed. Once our low and high fidelity prototypes were completed, we went through the design and organized the elements into a hierarchy of components and subcomponents. This allowed us to easily spot reusable components along with their variations involved in state props and behavior, and gave the team a good sense of the scope of work ahead. This aided our workflow, as any team member could jump in, pick an isolated component from the backlog, and code it.
For our backend relational database, we used Riot to map up our data structure. We started with a basic design aiming at the MVP, which consists of 3 tables. This initial agreement enabled us to build front and back end simultaneously, since we had a contract specifying routes and what the response will look like for each one of them. Our team wrote some tests to make sure the app was robust and maintainable. The strategy was first testing the front end, especially the components around the user journey. Secondly, testing that our app was receiving the correct data from our API, so the app should render primarily the ingredients in season. And in the end, we tested the whole user journey starting from authentication using Cypress. We also used Postman along the way, so we could easily check whether our endpoints worked as expected. When it comes to the tech stack, we initially thought about exploring new technologies like Next.js and React Native. However, after a chat, we did agree on working with the stack we already knew, so we could consolidate our knowledge and everyone could participate equally in the project. Having a 4 weeks deadline was also a factor for our decisions. So we used React for our front end and the Chakra UI library to integrate some components and keep a consistent style throughout the app. When it comes to hosting and deployment, we use Heroku and Netify because they allow us continuous deployment and have a friendly interface. For our database, Postgres offers us simplicity and structure, apart from the complete documentation. Lastly, Cloudinary was a solution to store and edit our app image so we could improve the app loading time.
The first thing we did was create a team schedule so that we could be more organized and efficient with the time spent on day-to-day tasks. Breaks were integrated in to keep morale high and to spend some time away from the screens to recharge. As a team, we also saw the need to do some walking or physical exercise in the afternoon breaks as we found it refreshing, if the weather allowed it. We ensured we adopted tight feedback cycles by having 2 daily check-ins in order to spot issues and allow for continuous improvement throughout the development process, whereby any of us would flag any issues we noticed to the rest of the team and subsequently collectively devise a plan of action to tackle it in the most efficient and effective manner. Team meetings were run by a Scrum Master, a role which we shared around the group. We started off by picking someone randomly each day, but as the project went on, we decided that this would benefit from more continuity, so it became a weekly role. This is so everyone had a chance to get some experience in the role and see the challenges that you would face in that position. We began each day with a team stand-up to recap the previous day and end the day with a retrospective, which we would discuss if we had achieved the objectives we had set out for the day. In the stand-up, we would assign tasks and break into groups to work on these. When beginning a new sprint, we would set the goal and determine what tickets would be necessary to achieve this within the time frame set. We used a series of sprints to achieve an MVP by the middle of the 3rd week, after which we iterated on this by post-MVP features that were decided early in the planning stage and were ranked by difficulty, as we wanted to keep morale high by getting small wins and keeping the ball rolling. We used the Trello board to outline the different sprints and what we would need to do to keep the project on track. As a team, we discussed many things before talking about the project to build familiarity. We talked about our learning styles, our personalities, our previous jobs and backgrounds to get to know one another. This was also done to see if any of us had transferable skills that could be applied directly to the project. We also discussed our strengths and weaknesses technically, as this helped us plan effectively in the task delegation. We planned ahead for difference of opinion by setting up a voting system which the whole group would have to participate. This solved problems quickly and effectively, as it would be a group decision and not an individual decision. If we wanted to implement features but were struggling to complete it against the time set, we would set tripwires to make sure that we would not spend a lot of time on a particular issue. We decided as a team that while we wanted to make a great product together, one of the main goals was for all of us to get experience in aspects of the agile team environment, and we tried to prioritize everyone getting exposure to all aspects of the project rather than getting too focused in specific areas. We separated the front and back end and used pair programming, which helped us tackle more tasks simultaneously. We went for clean, readable code, and comments when necessary, as this would make it a lot easier for the team members to pick up work with no explanation needed. As we were using pair programming and split off and doing tasks simultaneously, we were branching off and using Git flow by having 2 main branches that we would work on and having further branches for every feature that we started. Every new feature had its own branch, which can be pushed to the central repository for backup collaboration by any team member. When a feature is complete, it got merged back into the develop branch. Features would never interact directly with the main, and once they had been merged, they would be deleted to keep our repository concise and organized. Once the develop branch has acquired enough features, or the sprint had finished, we merged into the main branch so it wouldn't be that many commits behind. This saved us a lot of time with merge conflicts, as we would locate the issues pretty quickly and every feature wouldn't go straight into the main.
Building the Nourish app together was a great experience in how to solve problems as a team. There were numerous technical issues that we had to overcome, one of which was the API that provided information about the recipes. We initially found one that seemed to provide all the information we needed, but it wasn't until later that we discovered that it wasn't giving us the recipe steps. This was a big feature for us, so we had to find a way around it. One of the things we looked into was web scraping, potentially using the URL that the recipe came from and scraping the information that way. But we also found another API that did provide this information, but it required multiple fetches, and also there was limits to how much we could use that API per day. We set a tripwire to give ourselves a limited time to see if we could implement the new API in our app, and ultimately it ended up working successfully, so that was the solution. We also had an issue with our team where we started off with 6 people, but unfortunately one had to step away. So we'd originally planned to work in 3 groups of 2, but we had to change to a group of 3 and a group of 2, as we wanted to maintain that pair programming and the group problem-solving dynamic. This meant restructuring our sprints and the goals that we could achieve with the amount of work we were putting in. But ultimately, we were still able to achieve an app we were really proud of.
This is what we managed in the time frame that we had, but when thinking about scaling the app, there were many extra features that we would have liked to have added. So in a 3-day sprint, we would have a filter by dietary requirements category on the search page. So if you're vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, there will be options to choose from. The following 3-day sprint, we would add a user profile, so that would have their contact details, a shopping list, favourite recipes on there, and then in the final sprint, maybe of about a week, we would like to add a map function so they can search their nearby area and find the shops that sell their local produce for their recipes that they want to make. We would like to thank you for listening to our presentation. We hope it's something that you could see yourself using in the future, and please do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions on LinkedIn. Thank you.